what all of quantum science it says, whether it's materialism or non-materialism, is that the quantum field that creates reality, it is there, that is the basic building block, is bubbling in and out of existence all the time. So the molecules that are created are made out of energy that appear and disappear all the time, and nobody knows where that energy comes from that creates the bubbling mass. Mm-hmm. Now, this is actually important because it means that the material world is being recreated constantly. It's not, materialists would say, well, there's the Earth, it's been there for billions of years, that's the Earth, that's it. But equally, they know, they know that the atomic structure that makes that mass of the Earth is constantly changing. The atomic structure does not stay still. You are not the same atomic structure that you were 20 years ago. There's not a single atom in you that is the same, right?
Yeah.
Now, the importance of that is that the really important thing about quantum mechanics is that the role of the observer in the process of the material world being formed. This is the fundamental thing. And this is where so much New Ageism has come from, is this idea that as an observer tries to measure the speed and position of a molecule, it changes into solid form from the potentiality of where it might be, right? Okay, that's not terribly well explained. Let's say we've got an electron of a hydrogen atom. That electron of the hydrogen atom is actually not as we're often led to believe, it's not like a solid billiard ball sitting there as an electron, like, okay, there's this spherical object, but it's just very, very tiny, and it's whizzing around like mad. It doesn't exist like that. What it is it's just like a fluctuation within an overall energy field, a little, excitation within an energy field. And that, as an observer tries to pinpoint where that excitation actually is, it appears to form into a position. So this is where the idea of possibility, you've got infinite possibility within this bubbling field of the quantum foam from which everything arises. It's an infinite possibility. The observer observes and collapses, as they say, something into form. And therefore, the idea is that actually that expands out into the macro environment that we can observe.
Yeah.
This is where the idea of we create our own reality, because the observer is taken to be the human individual. Now, where we are currently is that with science is that it's not necessarily the human observation. There are various theories about, well, actually an observer might be even just a sound, background sound resonating throughout the universe that actually is forming this kind of observation in some manner. That's rather difficult to get your head around. But the important thing is that there is still a role for the human observation within every interaction, but there is also a role for wider observation within that interaction. And what we're looking at there is the idea that there is a God's eye view. So there are other observing forces upon each and every interaction. So there is an observation that is happening elsewhere to us now, having this conversation. And we are also observing in our own human terms. And there are other observations probably that go from our macro level down into the minutest thing that actually forms, and then kind of in this paradoxical way, it all happens at once in the eternal loop of time, that the observation creates the moment. So
doing good.
It's pretty brain bending. But what's lovely is that non-materialist science accepts that there is a God's eye view.